Bearing Questions began in collaboration with Anise Van Aken's latest choreographic work, Makti, a solo dance performance which allows the audience to turn a critical eye to the theme of motherhood. She asked us to create a platform that can develop a new type of audience question and answer, not focused on explaining the performance or answering what does it mean, but to share a conversation to allow people to be more involved in the performance, not as a spectator, but as a participant. From the very beginning, we wanted to develop this project so that it is not limited to the audience of the performance. For Anise, it was important that a larger community can be involved in the conversation, to spread Makti into a cultural event that is broader than within the walls of the theatre.
The concept behind Bearing Questions began from a very simple question raised from Anaïs's performance, which is, how do you know when you're ready to have a child? During the many brainstorming sessions and discussions we had, this question proved just impossible to answer. In fact, by trying to answer this question, we were left with even more questions, like, what even is maternal instinct? What is the difference between motherhood and fatherhood? Can only women be mothers? And how do we value motherhood as society? These questions continue to grow into what we call a storm of questions, a sort of snowball effect where one question created dozens more. We realize that the beauty of these questions lies not in their answers, but in the conversations they ignite. By stripping away the pressure of answering the questions, we found joy in accepting the unknown. In our opinion, a storm of questions can be more powerful and more real than a cloud of uncertainty.
This process of questioning questions inspired us to make our platform a space that includes and even encourages these uncertainties and the doubts around motherhood. We decided to create a new conversation that was still founded on the idea of a Q&A, but with an emphasis on the unanswerable. A conversation where each new question can inspire a new thought or a new critical perspective on motherhood. The concept of motherhood is so broad and so universal, but it's all too often defined and restricted by societal norms and expectations. Norms that determine how to succeed or fail, or that determine what is right and wrong. So when you remove the pressure of those expectations, the process of questioning motherhood can become very powerful. So in short, we wanted to broaden the concept of motherhood and to open up a space where open dialogue is encouraged.
Who is a part of the conversation? We want to bring the conversations around motherhood to everyone, especially people who are usually excluded. This means we invite mothers, fathers, women, men, trans persons, non-binary persons, straight, gay, bisexual, queer, asexual, and any label or non-label in between. We want to make the conversation completely open to all voices, because motherhood is universal, so the conversations around it should be too.
So, how does the conversation actually take place? We took it back to basics, the letter. Bearing Questions is a digital letter writing chain. Each letter has a new question on the theme of parenthood. You simply read the question, respond however you feel, either writing, drawing, music, and then you write a new question for the next participant. Each letter has a different voice, a different perspective, and a different opinion. Basically, our platform is a lot of questions and a lot of non-answers.
So, how can you join in? You can follow us on Instagram and directly engage with the questions and conversations happening in the stories and on the profile. You can also check our website and see our never-ending chain of questions in an online publication. You can add your voice to the myriad of others and sign up to the question chain by emailing us. You're also welcome to join as an organization. We also have a paper version of the letter writing chain that is designed for groups of people. And finally, you can take part in the question installation here and now. Just pick up a postcard, fill it in, and drop it in the mailbox.
While we couldn't do our project as planned, we have developed an installation prototype which can be used in the future when theatres reopen. The installation will have the question letter chains physically in the space, the storm of questions, where the questions will be hung from strings around the theatre foyer. In this way, visitors can engage as they wish, either following the strings and the letters chronologically or wandering around the space and reading the letters at random. Each experience of the installation will be unique. Placing the installation in the foyer means the audience can interact before and after the performance, providing a context to the dance piece which doesn't focus on what it means or how the audience should see it, but a context focusing on questioning, on thinking and reflecting on motherhood. The audience can then participate with the installation by writing their own question letters or answering those of others, reformatting the audience Q&A to a different type of conversation, not based on the performance as a separate event, but as part of a larger topic or a larger conversation. Today we have made a small prototype of this installation where anyone who wants can participate.
So what's next? From our question chains, we have developed an online publication. By existing online, our publication is constantly in this sort of state of flux, developing and changing as the storm of question conversation continues. Bearing Questions is an incomplete guide to motherhood. It pieces the letter chains back together, allowing the reader to follow the development of each question, to see how one idea can flourish when so many voices are heard, and when there is no pressure to be right, and when there's no answer that can be wrong. The publication will remain a work in progress that can be continuously added to, because the conversation around motherhood can never be or should never be completed. The publication allows Bearing Questions to extend into something more than just a singular moment. It brings a cultural event into the community by being built around the voices of those in the community. We hope that our project can make culture a conversation, not just an event. And now we can show you a little bit about our online publication here. Online publication, you just have to go to our website and click on this stack of postcards. And then you'll get to our front cover. You can then click through and you'll find some more information about our project that we've already explained to you here, so we won't go through it again. And some information about the performance of Matki. And then you'll get to our letter chain index. So far we have 6 different letter chains going on. Each of them started with the same question, and then the chains evolved depending on the different participants who took part. There will be more chains added as we go along, so keep looking at the publication for updates. And then you can just click on one of the envelopes and you'll get to one of the chains. You can either click through chronologically by clicking on the arrows at the bottom of the screen. You'll find a new question, and at the back of the postcard, the answer. And here you get how that participant has identified as themselves. But that's a very open question and they can fit it in however they feel. You can also scroll through here and click on a random question. You don't have to go through chronologically, and then you'll find the answer on the back of the postcard. And then you can just go back to the index and click on another chain. And again, scroll through and see how the questions have evolved compared to the first one. Every chain is very different and has gone in a very different direction. You can also click through and go through each chain chronologically. As you can see, the first question for every chain is, what does maternal instinct mean to you? And here you find our credits page with everyone who has been involved in this project. And you can click here to find some information about Matki, the performance itself. Thank you very much. So we started with a project from Anaïs, a dance performance of Matki, where she wanted to delve a bit deeper into the topic of motherhood through dance. And she wanted to have a Q&A that wasn't focused on the work itself, but that was focused on themes of motherhood. So we decided to go a bit further because she wanted to integrate members of the community, not to make it specifically about theatre and the technicalities of theatre, but about just the universal concept of motherhood and all the different voices that can be involved when you take it outside of the theatre space. So for us, the emotional component came from the questions quite naturally. We never tried to enforce an emotional aspect. But when you're departing from something like a dance performance and something like a topic of motherhood, the emotional concept kind of just came about on its own. And the questions, they just developed as the project went along, so that the different topics that were involved and the different voices that we heard, yeah, they kind of came from their own. It wasn't from an original idea of ours in any way.